Forbes India, Tycoons of Tomorrow, presented by Neom.
I have with me two profitable unicorns. We've got Mamaearth and we've got Infra.Market. Many thanks, panelists, for joining us here. And now, let's discuss the merits of profits over valuations and how to build long-lasting businesses. In fact, like, Sumara mentioned in her intro, India has a 100-plus strong unicorn club, and an equal number of unicorns, waiting to line up, number of startups waiting there to line up. Also, however, there is a big but, and that is we have a handful number of unicorns that are profitable. I want to ask you, Varun, let me start with you. The VCs, private equity players, investors are all moving away. They're not just focusing on valuations. The focus is more on corporate governance, strong fundamentals, generating strong cash flows. You've been frugal since the very beginning at Mamaearth, and I want to understand how important than ever today is the need for strong fundamentals to generate strong cash flows.
Hey, firstly, thank you for having us here. And hi, hello, everyone. The need has always been there and will continue to be there. I mean, anything in this world, be it business, be it relationships, nothing can be really sustainable if it doesn't have fundamentals.
Absolutely.
And hence, the shift from a little bit of craziness to fundamentals is a great shift, right? Because finally, first principles is how anything gets created. And that, in my mind, but it's not necessary that all businesses need to make profit in year 1 or year 5. And every business has its own journey. And as long as the fundamentals are right, and the vision is there, and frugality is there in the DNA. Right? I mean, look at Amazon today, one of the most valuable companies that exists on the globe. Right? Till about 5 years back, it was unprofitable, right? And that was 20 years into its journey. Right? Still, when they were 4th year into their existence, and all their tables were made out of doors of IKEA. Right? They did not buy proper tables. Right? They bought doors from IKEA, and hence every table had a small hole in them. And that's frugality.
Absolutely.
The culture existed, right? But they were building something which was far bigger, and hence on a journey which they shared with their investors, right? And they were public, right? And still the market sort of went with them, right? So everybody has their own journey. And looking down on losses in the short term might not help you create world-changing companies in the long term, like Tesla, etc. But fundamentals, I agree, have to be in place.
All right, fundamentals have to be in place. We all completely believe in the power of the balance sheet, but let me quickly move on to Infra.Market. Yours is a B2B company, and of course, you've got business to retail. And the general view is that, while B2C and commerce companies turn profitable in about, 7 to 8 years of time, it's perhaps a little easier for B2B ventures. And I believe you've never posted losses. You've been profitable. I want to know how, and also especially what should founders focus now on? There's a stronger scrutiny, there's stronger accountability. What should founders focus on?
I think, like you said, B2B companies have different unit economics to B2C companies. And carrying on from Varun said that I think sensitivity to profitability is very critical. I don't think it's about a number that you are profitable or not profitable, how many rupee value profit, how much rupee value profit are you making? I don't think that really carries much importance from investors' point of view or stakeholders' point of view. I think the fact remains that if you can foresee when you will become profitable, what is the path to profitability, that's critical.
Okay.
But as a B2B company, I think it's very critical to understand that what you're building will require more capital than B2C companies. Essentially because you're attacking a problem where there are a lot of large incumbents that eventually you're going to have to take on, right? And you're going to have to disrupt a market which technically has much more scale than B2C companies, because you're effectively trying to disrupt large industries compared to a B2C company. And when you have such large pools of capital that you require, you can't only depend on venture capital investors. And to tap different pools of capital, you need to have a business model that actually convinces these different pools of capital to come and invest in you. That could be debt capital, that could be private markets, that could be private credit markets, banks. And obviously you can't tap onto those players if you're actually loss making. So I think inherently as a B2B company to survive, if you're going to only survive on equity capital, you're going to run a very inefficient model. And you're going to run a very capital-intensive model that's not going to play out in the long run. So I think that depends on the model. Like, if you're running a B2C company, you can afford losses because there's a path to what Amazon has done, but a B2B company can't really. So I think that depends on the model you're running. For example, if you're running a deep tech company, you can't be profitable for next 4 years.
Absolutely,
5 years,
yes.
right?
So, right. So, while profitability certainly goes a long way in building, long-lasting businesses, I recently spoke to Kanwaljit Singh of Fireside Ventures, who's also your investor, and he pointed out that, at Mamaearth, you guys have done a fabulous job where you've actually retained quite a bit of equity to yourselves, and it's not just the investors and the company that's making profits, but also the founders, which is kind of rare now. I want to understand, Ghazal, from you, how are you making long-lasting businesses? What has been your focus at Mamaearth that you've made profits for the company, for your investors, and for yourself?
I think
Yes, we can hear you. Yeah.
I think from the very beginning, the only way that we understood to make a business was eventually have a clear vision of how it will start making money for us as well as people who have put their trust in us. So that was always the core. And I think because we were so cognizant of that, I think year on year, the focus on the P&L was very, very strong. And we started, with a vision saying there are going to be initial few years where we'll be investing a lot more because we are building a brand. And that's required, right? Brand building is a very difficult exercise. You need to get to the right consumers. You need to explain what you're creating. And hence, that's the growth stage, where we'll probably burn, and that's okay. But then there needs to come a point, and we need to identify that point where we'll say that, okay, now the business needs to grow sustainably. And eventually then get to profitability. So I think that path was really clear in our minds. That's what we have followed. That's what we are following with our newer brands, which are next to Mamaearth as well.
Yeah.
That did help.
All right.
I would add to
yes,
this.
Please.
I would say just take some money from your friends and relatives, and really helps because you become very careful with that money. You know you want to return that to maintain relationships, which is what we had done earlier.
Yes, and you've been very frugal. I have to, say this because you never spent on lavish offices, never hired top guns, not those big money placements. And also, most importantly, I believe you only started marketing and aggressively marketing your brand, especially on TV, in 2020? Before that, we didn't see much spends on marketing and branding. And it is quite unique, so to speak of, because you're in a D2C business, where, so how did you do that brand building? And, when you have investor money lying in your banks, it's not that you didn't have the money. What hard choices did you make, Varun? Or Ghazal, whoever wants to answer.
No, in fact, I could see Amit smiling because he's been to really, really shabby offices of ours.
Yes,
right?
we've heard about that as well.
Which were in these corner basements, which was also actually a scrapyard which we converted into office, right? I think the journey of creating a sustainable, profitable business is all about making hard choices. Right? And, in fact, we say this often, but strategy is about what you say no to rather than what you say yes to. Right?
Absolutely.
And hence, I believe what we have said no to over time is what has helped us reach where we have reached, right? I mean, saying no to some of these lavish spends that you talked about, or saying no to taking up mass advertising before you reach mass distribution, right? Because that will actually lead to a wasteful spend and it'll spill, right? Saying no to aggressive blitz scaling if your supply chain is not capable of supporting that scale, right? Saying no to really fancy hires, not because we believe they will not come and add value, right? But because we believe that the task at hand, right, is actually not large enough for them. Right? And with a large leader, right, it's not just the leader, but their intent of having a large team, and the other pieces which they used to also follows. And you need your balance sheet, your P&L needs to be able to support that. And also over time, saying no to investors, right, when you don't really need the money.
Yes.
And raising just for the heck of it. Right? I think all of those no's has gotten us where we are.
Yes, and that's absolutely worked out for you. And coming back to Infra.Market and coming back to making hard choices, Infra.Market was under a lot of scrutiny. And of course, you're not the first guys, first companies or startups to have, GST queries or in IT queries. But I just wanted to know, did the unicorn tag add more pressure? Did you feel that, you had investor expectations, you have lofty valuations, and you had the profitability and everything all matching at the same time? So do you think the unicorn tag added to the pressure?
Not really. Not really. I don't think the unicorn tax adds pressure on a day-to-day basis, or I think it's that event when you become a unicorn or when you get compared. I don't think it's a daily sort of thing. Yes, valuations can add pressure, but I think for us, it's about stakeholders. The stakeholders who are there, yes. If you have external stakeholders in your company, that will have added pressure for you to eventually explain the situation to all. I think that adds pressure, but I don't think that would add pressure whether you're valued at $100 million or whether you're valued at $3 billion. I don't think that is subject to valuations or that is subject to
you were more in the media scrutiny, so to speak of.
Correct. I think that is because you are a startup. I think what happens is that startups get, so if you want all the accolades, you have to take the brickbat sort of a thing. So you get all so when you raise any money or you do anything good, you get all the media press releases. So you get it also when something bad happens. I think that's part of the journey.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think exactly. I think you guys love us a lot, right? Like
We do.
all of us, yeah.
Yes.
So if you see, unicorn by concept is imaginary, right? Unrealistic, unconventional. So I think anything which is unrealistic and unconventional, people generally happen to look at it under a microscope. Okay, hey, what's happening, right? So there was a time when, the 2021, there was enough equity to spoil the market, right? The valuations were soaring. There was a lot of dry powder in the ecosystem because for almost a year there was no investments happening.
Yes.
So the money was chasing the ideas. So at that time, the kind of valuation spurt up happened. I think that got us, not us, but many institutions, many businesses, a lot of attention. And as you get the good part, as Souvik said, right? So if there is any of such news, like I do remember, there were about 93 news articles on us, right? 93. We still, as in one of my team members still has got that.
Okay.
We have kept it, right? And I think in B2B businesses, see, we are a young company developing with our processes, understanding compliances and everything. And we have to understand that a lot of business happened during the COVID period, right? Where the processes were not involved, where there were a lot of the vendors and the supplies happening without we working online, without we working physically.
Yeah.
Right? So I think what happens is that during that time, even if there was lapses, like by the time you correct it, right, you're already under the microscope. And in India, I think it does happen. Like many of the business houses have come under tax department scrutiny. But I think the kind of attention, not only us and even in coming time, any of the unicorns would enjoy, would be slightly more. I do remember during the same time there was Hirandani's, there were Hero Motors, a couple of large institutions. But I think we were the favorite ones.
Okay,
Right?
you are the favorite ones, and I also want to understand what kind of conversations are you having with your investors right now, what has changed? Like he spoke about, there was a spurt in valuations. Now VCs, everybody is realizing course corrections, everyone's realizing profits. I mean, of course, you've been profitable, but what has changed? What has changed in the conversation?
No, I think what has changed in the conversations is that most investors today, see, investing for them, what as a startup founder you have to realize is that you are a portfolio of one. You as a startup founder have only one company you can look up to. As an investor, they can have 100 and they can have a hit rate and they can decide, okay, 5 out of these 100 make money, that's good enough for them. You have only one.
Yes.
You don't have that luxury, right? So you are not, irrespective of lofty valuations in 2021 or a funding winter in 2022, you have to align yourself to building what you are building because you don't have a hit rate of 5 to 10%. You have to have a hit rate of 100% to survive. So I think for us, not much has changed in day to day.
Okay.
Investors, yes, they have gone out. Some of them who were very aggressive are no longer aggressive. But there are obviously other pools of capital you can tap into, and they will at the benefit of a profitable startup is you can raise when you want. to when the markets are good and not need to raise every day?
I think generally the appreciation of being profitable has increased, right? So I do remember, we were bootstrapped for 3 years, from 2017 until 2019, and we couldn't raise capital because every investor said, why do you need capital? You can go to the banks and raise it, right? And at some point we used to think that, is it a crime is it a mistake that we have been profitable, right? So we have been through that journey, but
Okay.
yes, now I think the appreciation of being profitable, the appreciation of concentrating on unit economics has started making more sense. And generally, because it's on the ecosystem, right? So I think it gets a lot of pressure and the best ones will win.
All right. So the best ones will win. Companies that have strong fundamentals will have no dearth of capital, is what you're trying to say. Again, the rules of the game have changed. The way consumers interact with brands today has changed. We all know about the big Bharat opportunity that is there. If you could elaborate on how you're, planning to tap into this big market. You're already aggressive on, you've started very aggressively expanding on offline stores as well. But will you be looking at the Bharat opportunity as well?
I think we are already looking at the Bharat of today. For that matter, around 40 to 50% of our business comes from there. So it's a very, very critical market for us. The consumers are evolving, their needs are evolving. The concept around individualism, where a consumer wants products for him rather than for the whole family, the way it used to be earlier, that shift is changing. And because of that, sometimes we feel that the definition of tier 2, tier 3 might not be as strong, but these cities now have consumers who have the ability to pay. Bharat is changing and we need to all listen to that. And the most important thing, right, at least reaching out directly to these consumers, we've realized that there are no geographical boundaries the way they used to be earlier,
Absolutely.
right? At least through online, you can reach
Thanks to
every consumer, be it India, be it Bharat, deliver them your products if they are looking for one. And since that system has evolved so much, there is no reason why one shouldn't be looking at that.
All right, okay. I also want to talk to you about your house of brand strategy. You've acquired 3 companies. You've got an army of your own. You've got the Derma company. You've got Aqualogica and Ayug. If you could elaborate on, because, a lot of brands are doing that, creating this whole house of brand strategy. What is unique about yours?
Ours works. No, honestly, it's not a new strategy, right? I mean, if you look at Unilever, L'Oreal, right? Any of these companies.
A lot of startups
right?
are now also doing that.
This is a basic strategy of using your corporate strength and to actually get a higher wallet share of the consumer that you're targeting. And our core market is India. And India's consumer has diverse interests. There might be a consumer who wants a natural product. There might be a consumer who wants a scientific skincare product, which is active-based. There's a consumer who wants a salon-like hair care. On the other hand, there is a consumer who wants long-lasting makeup and does not care about naturals. Right? Now, this is the Indian consumer. And we want to make sure that we become the largest beauty and personal care company in India. And if I want to do that, I have to provide different propositions at different price points to these consumers. Right? And there genuinely has been dearth of brand builders and creators in the market. Right?
Yeah.
And we would like to be the one who fills the gap.
All right, okay. I want to talk to you about the cross-border opportunity, the expansion plans, if you could elaborate on what the future focus is right now.
So I think for cross-border opportunity, I think it's a opportunity almost every manufacturing company in India is sitting on. And as we as a contract manufacturing startup are at the cusp of sort of unlocking it, I think we've had PLI schemes launched across sectors. There's going to be a China plus one strategy. That plus now as India, whether we grab that opportunity or that how much of that opportunity goes to other countries, is that actually is the pie is going to increase for India. The question is how much of it is going to increase. The energy crisis globally,
Yes.
the way the prices have stocked up. So I think we are sitting on a cusp of opportunity and we have created that platform where contract manufacturers in India can service global clients. Today, a large part of our revenue flows from exports. We are enabling a lot of manufacturers in India to export globally. So for us, the opportunity is large for us to actually go out there and take Indian products and service global requirements. At the same time, for us, what is very critical for us to understand is we are really working with what you would call Bharat, where we are actually working with a driver who's driving a truck every day, to a labor operator who's manning a machine. And we need to build what we are trying to build is a platform that makes their lives easier. So we are not here we're not here to service only the creamy layer of the consumers. When you and I walk out here and we see a coastal road getting built, we see a bridge getting built and a road getting built, we are servicing that driver who's getting that material there. We are making their lives easier, and we are really proud not only to take their efforts and take those products and take them global, but to actually really be part of building India. I think that is what we as a startup really want to focus on. We want to really be part of this, building India into what it needs to be over the next couple of decades.
All right, there are lots of plans, but I want to understand there's a lot of push from the government, lots of things happening in the ecosystem. We've all witnessing the startup growth story, but what more needs to be done? Are we quite there?
I think, see, if you ask me, are we quite there? We are not. I think there's obviously a continuous room for improvement, right? So we are not there at any point of time. We'll not be there. But yes, today we have got the right policy making. We've got the right element of stability to compete, to attract capital even in these situations, to enable today if a lot of founders today are still getting capital for building their businesses, that's completely different from the global scenario. We are macroeconomically level, at least much better off than many countries right now, the way they are operating. So I think, yes, a government has done a lot. The government is, even at an infra level, if you look at it, there's a huge push because India is infra deficient, there's a huge push in building that up. So I think the government is doing a lot. Obviously, we are not there. We're not the perfect position yet. We're not in the perfect country, obviously. But the fact remains that there are incremental improvements happening, and I think we're in the right track to sort of build it up. And every time we discuss policy level with anyone, we understand that there is an overall thought process to build it up. I mean, I think what they've done with banks and NPCI and UPI is extraordinarily helped starters, right? So I mean, that's a small step. But for us, maybe it's a small thing at the B2B, but even B2C, D2C companies.
So what is your big demand? Like you said, there are improvements.
I think exports. I think we really need to enable manufacturers in India to export. If you look at other countries, the way from financing point of view to insurance point of view, the way they have that stack built to enable their local manufacturers to export globally is phenomenal. And if we want to grab that opportunity, you just need to look at the percentage of exports to a GDP of Vietnam, compare that to India, and you will see that we are still lacking far behind that. We are doing things, but I think that we still need to do a lot for us to be up there and actually be a beneficiary of this China Plus One strategy.
Okay, that's the B2B demand. What about you guys, D2C? Where do you think we're lacking? What is the big wish list? What's not happening? Where are we stuck?
No, I wouldn't say what's not happening. I think we've moved a fair bit, right, in the last couple of decades. But if there was one thing that I would say we need to keep doing and need to keep doing even better is impetus on the economic growth, right? It would be a combination of a lot of things, right? From ensuring we become the +1 production hub, which is going to generate a lot more jobs, and that's another thing. Infrastructure investments and the right monetary and fiscal policies, right? I think there needs to be a lot of economic activity and a lot of focus on growth for the next, couple of decades. And we're just poised to win. And we just need to ensure we don't lose the game ourselves.
All right. We're poised to win, and you guys are not just founders but investors as well. I want to understand your investment philosophy. What do you look for in a startup? How do you make that bet?
I think my investment philosophy is very, very simple. I love to bet on people more than ideas to at least begin with, because when we started out, our first investor betted on us more than the idea. He said, "Tum log achhe ho, to tum figure out kuch na kuch to kar hi loge."
Okay.
And that sort of gave us a lot more confidence, right? That if the people are good, they will build something which is going to give fruits. So one is that. Other than that, I think till the time the idea is solving a large problem within the economy and it has been validated that the problem exists and
Okay.
it's there to be solved for. That's the second thing that I look for.
All right, so the people and the gap that's there in the market. Also, I want to also talk to you about your omni-channel play, If you could elaborate on plans on that front, like I mentioned earlier, there's aggressive, offline focus. What's more in store? What's in the pipeline?
I think we've always followed the consumer, and we've listened to the consumer. And even our distribution strategy has been in line with that, right? As brands grow, their demand and awareness grows, right? They need to be available at different points of distribution where the consumer expects you to be, and which is where we started our offline journey about 2 years back. Now we're in about 50,000 plus stores, right? Across 200 plus cities. It's not just metro focused, because we've honestly always been, we believed in no racism in geography, right? So the more we can reach out to the right valuated distribution outlets, that's the objective, right? And now we've also started opening our own exclusive brand outlets, right? Because what we realized was, with the kind of portfolio that Mamaearth has, right, bringing it to life in a multi-brand store might not be possible. And so our exclusive brand stores are bringing not just the portfolio to life, but our purpose, like, for example, a plastic recycling bin where you can come and submit the bottles, or the number of trees that we have planted and how many have that store contributed, and being mentioned there, and creating, that aura of how the relationship that you just made with us, right, made a difference not just to you and your family's health, but also to the community that you live in. So those are some of the things.
Okay, all right. I want to hear about your future focus plans, and also one advice that you would give to all B2B founders there, or perhaps people who want to enter into the space. So first your future plans, and then perhaps that one.
So I think at Infra.Market, we have already started diversifying from a B2B company to retail space.
Yeah.
We have already opened our franchisee stores, right? And we are looking at scale. So in India, if you see, as you build out your home, right, you typically have to walk into multiple stores. For tiles and bath fittings, you may have to move to one store, for electrical another, right? So what we are trying to build out is everything under one roof, right? Can you walk in and give a complete range to a consumer, be it an architect, be it an interior designer, be it a consumer, right? Can you as a company get a larger wallet share from your consumer, right? Can you give him a seamless experience? Can you drive the experience by technology, by digitalizing, right?
Okay.
So I think for us, retail is the next big thing that we are looking, right? Because as we have already building out the supply chain. So once you have a strong supply chain, it makes sense that from B2B, you start looking at all other networks and start catering for the wider reach.
Okay, that's good advice, and good job that you've done. Before I let you all go, one final question. You've got over $1 billion valuation, you've got a swelling top line, a positive bottom line. When do we see you listing? When do we see a profitable unicorn listing? Will it be by end of this year or 2023? Come on, Varun, give us a timeline.
Well, hopefully soon is all
Hopefully
that I
soon
can
is
say.
not a timeline. Will it be by end of this year?
No, it will not be by end of this
Okay.
year.
All right. Listing on the cards?
Not as fast as you're asking for us, but I think listing is just a start of the journey, right? So
Yes.
I think we need a lot of real fundamentals clear before we list. So I think it's far away from where your timelines are, but yes,
Okay.
it's on the cards. Not this year or not
Next.
anytime this year. Yeah.
Okay. Not this year, not next year. All right. Thank you, panelists, for joining us. We've completely run out of time, and many thanks for coming here and joining us. Thank you all for being such a fabulous audience. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Forbes India, Tycoons of Tomorrow, presented by Neom.